Hi, I'm Briony Montgomery and welcome. If you've landed here, it's likely because something inside of you knows it's time for healing. Maybe you've been carrying the weight of old stories, unresolved pain, or ancestral trauma. Maybe the mother wound has left you feeling fragmented, disconnected from your body, your intuition, and your power. You're not alone. So many women feel isolated, unseen, or overwhelmed. Navigating life transitions like perimenopause, divorce, motherhood, or grief, and searching for a safe, grounded way to reclaim themselves. These are exactly the women Motherway is for. Perhaps you've experienced a deep ache of losing your mother or never having the nurturing you needed. Trauma, abuse, or toxic relationships that keep repeating in your life, hormonal shifts, perimenopause, or body changes that make you feel out of balance. Generational burdens, grief, chronic illness, or patterns passed down through your motherline. Isolation, loneliness, and the longing for authentic connection, community, and belonging. Maybe you've tried to heal before, but nothing has fully helped you integrate the mind, body, and heart. Maybe you feel like there's a hole inside that no one or nothing can fill. The part of you that longs to feel safe, whole, and truly alive again. This is why I created Motherway. It's a 16-week transformative journey designed for women like you, women ready to heal the mother wound, release ancestral and generational trauma, and reclaim their power, joy, and inner wisdom. In these times, with the world facing ecocide, femicide, genocide, scholarcide, and the systemic collapse, the polycrisis we're living through, finding grounding, inner resources, and community is no longer optional. Motherway gives you exactly that. It helps you anchor yourself, heal deep wounds, and prepare to navigate the current and coming challenges with resilience, clarity, and strength. You'll not only reconnect with yourself, but learn how to embody your full power, restore balance to your body and mind, heal your nervous system, and the patterns that have held you back for generations. Motherway isn't just theory, it's hands-on, experiential, and deeply practical. Over 16 weeks, you'll receive 8 live teaching classes plus 8 implementation and integration circles. Guided at home somatic energy and embodiment practices, access to an online portal and a supportive community of like-minded women, direct guidance and support from me for the full duration of the course, and an opportunity to work one-on-one with me in addition. Lifetime access to the course materials so you can revisit anytime. We'll work together to heal your body, mind, and spirit through somatic therapy, energy work, Reiki, holistic counseling, life coaching, spiritual practices, and feminine embodiment. You'll release old trauma, reclaim your power, and restore a deep sense of belonging within yourself and with other women in your community and where you fit into the world. I created Motherway from my own journey. I know what it's like to carry the weight of a mother wound, ancestral trauma, and life-altering abuse. I've faced the fear, grief, and rage that come from loss, toxic relationships, and unhealed family patterns. Motherway really began to formulate from my own experience after my mother's death in 2002. And what happened after her death, became very despondent, and I was in a very depressed state, and the grief was quite overwhelming. And there was lots of other things at play, like family dynamics, like sorting out, where her things were to go, and her affairs and her finances. And a lot of the structures at the time completely broke away, completely fell apart. A lot of the people and the supports that I felt that I had up to that point also fell away and fell apart. And a lot of people in and around myself and my sibling and my family really showed their true colours. But the biggest takeaway for me was that I found that I was isolated, that I'd had a codependent relationship with my mother, that I'd lived under this oppressive and violent patriarchal way of being in family, being in community, being in connection, and I didn't feel I had anywhere that I belonged. The codependent and enmeshed relationship with my mother was built in, and that was where my belonging was. So when she died, I literally lost all of myself at that time. And I remember being in a very dark period and a dark night of the soul, and in a really big descent into the underworld, of giving over what I thought my life was and who I thought I was and what I thought my relationship with my mother was, and my family and my extended family and the support network that I thought was there, giving over what was no longer working to regain and extract and call back the exiled parts of myself that my mother and my family, and growing up, the way that I was treated, and the way that I was subdued, and the way that I was kind of should be seen and not heard, if you get my drift, that I went into a deep process, into a journey, into my psyche to retrieve those parts that I had cut away or moved out of my system because it was unsafe for me to be living and moving with those unique parts of me. So what I learned is I rebuilt myself from the cellular level up. I rebuilt myself through understanding my body, understanding my ancestral lineage, my story, who I am, who I was, my edges, my system, my nervous system. I unpacked my internal relationships with myself as well as my external relationships. I went in and I built myself bit by bit, cell by cell, back into a place of surplus, of strength, of sovereignty. I healed some disease in the motherline in that particular time as well. I moved through my depression without medication, with a very supportive community and other resources that I discovered and found, and I started to build this sense of belonging of who I was, who I am, and I started to build this kind of community in this sense of, okay, this is my place in the world. This is where I belong. This is where my system settles. This is how I can feel powerful. This is when I feel vulnerable. And I started to really move with grief very differently. I started to move with anger, with joy, with sadness, with frustration, with impatience. I literally turned my whole life upside down and rebuilt everything. And it was tough. Oh my God, it was tough. And I remember at the 7-year mark after the death of my mother, I remember I still had some personal items from her that I was not found too painful to get rid of. And I remember at the 7-year mark after her death, I finally was able to, to get rid of, to throw these personal items out. And that was a huge awakening for me, because that was a full 7-year cycle. And I worked really hard, and I pulled in every resource I possibly could in every different direction in order to stabilize myself, to bring myself into a place of power and ground, and to support myself, but also to dismantle the patriarchal colonized structures in my family, in my community, in my childhood that had created this oppressive, violent, and toxic situation and a mesh situation where I just never felt seen, heard, validated, supported, or loved for who I was and who I am. So I rebuilt, and then I've continued to rebuild. And the big thing for me is my mother died at 42 years of age. She died of cervical cancer. My grandmother died at 42 years of age, and she also had cervical cancer at the time of her death. And so I knew that this was in my line. There is no medical predisposition to cervical cancer. It's not hereditary, yet this was happening in my motherline. I found abnormal cells in my cervix quite early on after my mother's death, and I was able to get surgery to have them removed. And I know other family members have had issues with abnormal cells in their cervix as well. So the next big milestone after that 7-year cycle was reaching the age of 42 and going beyond. And this is where we're sitting now. I'm beyond the age of what my mother was when she passed, and what my maternal grandmother, who I didn't know very well, passed as well. So I am living proof of forging a new way and a new pathway, not just for myself, but for my ancestors and for my children, for my girls and for my son. And I'm forging this way with all the practices and all the somatic therapy and all of the work that I have done in and around healing my own mother wound and bringing myself back into reclamation, into connection, into my own power and my own resources in order to feel really unfuckwithable. Like, this is where we're at right now. This unfuckwithable sense of complete agency, autonomy, and sovereignty in who I am, where I'm going, what I want, and how I'm going to get that. And this is what I teach in a more directed way. It doesn't take years, in a more directed and powerful way over a 16-week period. I've worked for over 20 years with women around the world integrating somatic therapy, energy work, nutrition, herbal remedies, spiritual practices, Reiki, rites of passage, and life coaching. I've guided women to reclaim their power, release old patterns, and step fully into their authentic selves. And now Motherway brings all of this together in one transformative, supportive, and life-changing journey. Now is the time to say yes to yourself, to stop carrying the weight of old stories, limiting beliefs, and unresolved pain, to reclaim your body, your emotions, and your life. Motherway gives you the tools, the support, and the community to finally heal, integrate, and step into your true power. Early bird registration is open now, and this is your chance to join at a special rate. Click below to secure your spot. Your journey back to yourself and the life you're meant to live starts here.